Hello, this is Debbie Kay with the League of Women Voters of Portland, and you are watching Video Voters Guide. We are at the studios of MetroEast Community Media, interviewing candidates for the 2018 general election in November. We've invited all the candidates who filed for this race, and with me today is Katy Brumbelow, running for state representative from District 27. Katy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Good. Let's start with the most important question. Why are you running for office?
I am a mother of four, and I have a background in education. And a few months ago, we took some time to go down to the Capitol and do a field trip. We met our representative for our district and our senators, the state senator for the district, and we had the opportunity to see, to sit in on a session in the House.
Cool.
And so I became more interested just through educating my own children. And then I'm a libertarian, so our primary is a little later than the other parties' primaries. And when I voted, there was no one running for District 27, and so I wrote my name in. And I had looked at the job description, so I called my husband, talked to him, and read the job description, and said, well, if no one's doing this, then I will give it a shot. And I got a congratulatory letter in the mail a couple weeks later, and I decided to go for it because I do have some priorities for education for our state. I think some ideas that would help. So.
Well, why don't you go ahead and tell me about them?
So yes, when I started this process and I was formulating my candidate statement, I wanted to focus on testing, and I feel that our kids, especially elementary school age kids, are tested maybe a little too rigorously, or that time is taken away from teaching in the classroom, and also the standards tend to be based on what come down from the federal government, from even the No Child Left Behind Act from years ago, and we're still kind of in that rut. And I think that Oregon's a group of independent thinkers, and so it seems like a great challenge to look at that and say, do we really need testing as early as third grade? Is there a way that it could be district-based or could be locally controlled and less accountable to the state, more accountable to the local districts and the parents that are actually involved in their child's education? So,
all right. What steps would you take to ensure that more Oregonians are qualified and hired for Oregon jobs?
So I grew up in Oregon, and I tend to believe that Oregonians are skilled and educated and qualified for most of the jobs that are around us. I think that we have a very open and welcoming demeanor to people from all over. I believe that in our society, one of the things that is limiting to a lot of people is, of course, my background, learning a second language. So a lot of people are disadvantaged from just a language perspective. A lot of people are disadvantaged from an economic perspective as well, of course. But I think that in terms of helping Oregonians find good jobs, it begins with education. And I think that greater community involvement is important to ensure that those jobs are advertised in those communities, to ensure that we're not just passing jobs on to somebody we know, and that people who are applying for jobs are qualified for those positions. I think it's important to have transparency with our employers, and I think another vital aspect of helping Oregonians get good jobs is really apprenticeships and linking our education system to our employers in a more hands-on way. I went to Hillsborough High School, and one of the things that was really valuable to me in that experience was we had partnerships with Intel. And so we were able to bring technology into the classroom right away. There were a lot of opportunities that opened up for a wide base of kids because it was right there.
Right.
So,
Cool. Thank you.
yes.
Did that cut you off?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
How do you perceive that the legislature can provide stable, adequate, long-term funding for public education?
Well, I think one of the challenges with public education is there's so many aspects of where the funding goes, and people don't really know. And when I began this process and I met different people as I was collecting signatures to get my statement in the voters pamphlet even, PERS came up, of course. And I think a lot of the tax dollars, people go, well, where are our tax dollars going exactly when we say we're funding education? What does that mean? How is that broken down? And one of the reasons I chose a narrow focus for my campaign so far is because I think in order to have transparency and accountability, it helps to start with something small and measurable, something like testing, to say, well, how much are we spending on testing as part of our state budget? How much of our tax dollars that go to fund education are actually funding a testing company or funding hours in the classroom designed to just instruct the test, and to sort of attack one issue at a time and look at that and see how accountable we're being with that. And I think the way you increase funding or improve funding is to show people that what their money is paying for is really having an impact in their community. Mm-hmm. And so I believe in local controls and local partnerships to ensure that public education funding stays stable and that people know their choices for education. A lot of people I met do not know that you can homeschool your children, for example, in Oregon. So I think just building an information base so that parents are empowered to teach their children as long as they can, so that they're empowered to know where they can send their child to daycare or where they can send their child to school, so that there's increased options. I think that will actually have then repercussions for better funding in the future, because people will just be more enthusiastic about supporting schools that are working.
Yeah.
So,
is there another issue, you have about a minute, another issue you want to talk about your perspective on?
Sure. Another issue that came up a lot, because we live in Beaverton, is actually forest management. So Beaverton is like the tree capital. And people are concerned about, how are we managing our resources in forestry, and that is something I would like to take a closer look at, is how the state of Oregon is managing resources. Most of our state is actually is forest and is owned by the federal government as part of national forests, and that's a strong heritage, but it's something I think we need to be informed about how we're managing it, and even how we're maybe training people in our state to take care of that, so then we're providing jobs for people who live here and not just people who are from far away and don't appreciate the trees as much as we do. So,
all right,
thank you.
We're just about out of time, so thank you for joining us. This has been the Video Voters Guide. The general election is Tuesday, November 6th. The last day to register to vote is October 16th. We urge voters to visit the League of Women Voters of Oregon website, and also check out vote411.org. You can put in your street address and see a facsimile of your ballot with links to candidates and ballot measures to all the races that you will be voting on. And candidates can also upload their YouTube videos to vote411.org. Be sure to inform yourself about the candidates and ballot measures and exercise your right to vote. And please also encourage your family and friends to participate by voting. Thank you.